Hello, everybody. Glenn McDonald again with another Mainline Strength and Conditioning podcast. And today's guest is Bobby Ventura. He goes by many names. I'm really not going to divulge some of the names that I've called him before. He can do that himself. Hey, Bobby, how you doing? Good to see you,
I'm
man.
good.
Good to see you. So let's start where are you from?
Oh, I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I was
Okay.
born in Prescott, Arizona, and raised in South Phoenix.
Hmm. And what year did that start? When were you born?
Oh, 1965.
Nice. Okay. Um, how about how did you how was high school and everything for you? Were you an athlete or
Uh,
anything? Or? Hmm.
School was a little rough. Well, starting in junior high, I wanted out of Phoenix. I knew that.
Right.
And it seemed like there was a lot of possibilities around for me there at that time. I found out a really strange rule they used to have. I don't know if it's still, but it's 16 and 7 months. If you had a high school diploma or GED, and with your parents' consent, you could join the military, especially the Army. I found that out when I was in junior high.
Right.
So I started taking extra classes, summer school classes, even went to Glendale Community College as a very young teenager, sneak into some of the classes and extra credit stuff
Hmm.
there. I was going to South Mountain, but that had a lot of gang activity, and there was a big fight on the yard.
The
Camp,
playground.
yeah.
Yeah.
And a guy came at me with a set of nunchucks.
Wow.
Well, I'd already seen my first Bruce Lee movie and made my homemade set that I nearly killed myself. So I knew enough to be able to use them a little bit, but I took him away from the guy, and then somebody grabbed me from behind and spun me around, and that was a police officer.
Oh, nice.
So I go to a juvie court with my mom, and it's the part about my having taken the extra classes and everything, and I told him I wanted out. That's pretty much what saved me from having to go to Adobe Mountain, which was juvenile corrections.
Really? Wow.
But
Would
he
they would
said,
they charge would they charge you try to charge you with?
a possession of a weapon,
Oh, Jesus.
a
Huh.
nunchuck.
Yeah.
Being the found out during that trial, actually, in the state of Arizona, unless you have a card that actually says you're training and participating in the martial arts,
Yeah.
it's against the law to have nunchucks if you're under 18.
Interesting. Hmm.
So he gave me my choice. Well, you can go to Adobe Mountain for a year. And I'm like, oh, that's gonna. He says, or you can go to this program called Bostrom Alternative Center for Education.
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, okay, give me the alternative center. One of the absolute best choices of my life. It was basically kind of a second chance. A lot of the kids there were out of Adobe Mountain, but I mean, it was open campus. The teachers, instead of talking at you, actually talked to you.
Right.
And they found out I wanted what my goal was to get out, do that. They were actually trying to push me to, well, you could start college really early and this and that. But they also helped a lot. They had, it's not politically correct nowadays, but they had a lot of real world classes, such as for basic math.
Hmm.
Here's your paycheck.
Right.
Here's your expenses. Here's a checkbook.
Yeah.
Back
Balance your checkbook. Yeah.
out,
Yep. Yep.
which, even back then, a lot of
That
people
would,
were like, the first time they get that is like, huh? It's basic math, but they have no concept.
right. Did you were you always in trouble, or was it just like this one incident that led
Uh,
you to that?
I was always kind of a headstrong
No,
kid.
I never saw that in you.
And also, I never really, I don't think I ever really bullied anybody, but I never took a lot of crap from people. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
it was just, the way I was brought up. It's you feel it's right, stand up for it.
Hmm.
Don't let people push you around.
Were your parents in the military or anything that led you to that the way you
Now,
were?
tell me, because again, I was born in 65, last year, the baby boomers. My father, he was out of the picture by the time I was 5, but they tell me, or he served in World War II.
Okay. Yeah.
I He quit the Italian military and joined the Allies.
Oh, interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, and so went through that. I was able to get out or graduate early. Convinced my mom to sign for me, and I went in the Army. I
Okay.
did basic at Fort Leonard Wood. Then I went to medic school at Fort Sam Houston, and then just dumb luck, they had like an entire class of airborne
Okay.
get exposed to something, come down sick. So I was one of the top motivated individuals. So I got to go airborne. I was 82nd at Fort Bragg for 2 years.
Oh, nice. What year was that?
What was that? I went in 82.
Okay.
And after a couple of years at Fort Bragg, during the summer, they call it the dying season
Hmm.
because all the reserves and everybody comes up and it just turns into one big live fire base. I saw some really bad accidents where people got killed for no reason other than just dumb stuff.
Right.
And that was starting to affect me. So I went and talked to my first sergeant, and great guy, by the way. He kicked my ass when I'd bounced a check once and then lent me the money to cover it. And then told me that wasn't a real ass whipping. If you do it again, there will be a beating.
Yeah.
So I don't think I ever bounced a check again in my life. Um, we talked and he pulled some strings. He got me a 6-month conditional release from the Army. I'd go back to Phoenix. I'd be attached to a 996 medical company. And at the end of those 6 months, I'd either re-enlist in the Army for another 4 years or another branch of the armed services.
Hmm.
So I did that, and I'm talking to a couple of recruiters during this time, obviously. And Air Force, well, also they told me, yeah, you can priority advance out of basic in 3 weeks with your training. Oh, okay. And I was on standby to be a medic there, go to their school, but those guys can't give aspirin without a doctor's permission. You just take vitals and pass the information
Hmm.
on. So I wound up went there, survival equipment, got over to Okinawa, and I was there for, the first 6 months was pretty good. And then they were coming up with this joint forces thing. And they started looking at my paperwork. You're
Right.
ex-Army, you're ex-airborne,
Right.
you're a medic. And one guy asked, how old are you? And by this time I was 19. I was like, I started young. Boom. So that was good assignment. I got the joint forces. I was never good enough to be a frontline operator or a shooter,
Uh-huh.
but I was always good enough to be QRF or be, you know, advanced site security.
Yeah.
That was the
What they
first time.
what unit did they attach you to?
6 Joint Forces Special Operations Group. We had
Oh,
everything. I mean, we had C5s from the Navy.
yeah.
They had, I think they said we could be anywhere in the world in like 18, 19 hours.
Hmm.
And we did a lot of stuff. I got my coin somewhere for jumping over the poles, the South Pole. Been to all 7 continents.
Wow.
Military was great for me.
Hmm.
Made staff, thought I had the world by the tail. I'm doing great. They elected Bill Clinton. The rollback came around.
Hmm.
Reduction in force.
Reduction in force. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. One of my buddies, he was he was an E6. He was getting ready. He was studying to pass test BE7. Had everything he needed for that. Just need to take the test. And this is what they didn't tell you about the rollback and stuff. His name came down on the list the first year, so they offered him money to get out. But he had 4 kids, so he's living on base and all that. He's like, yeah, I'll make this next grade, ride out, get my 20. Boom.
Right.
Next year comes out and they send him a letter. Hey, thanks for your service. Please be out processed by the end of the month.
Wow.
He goes, no. We only offer one time.
The first time, right?
Yeah. And then got that letter. My name came up on the list. They also, when he was talking to him, he explained it. Oh, yeah, your name comes up the first year. There's like a 99.99% chance it's going to come up the second year. We're going to boot you. So I took that money, got out. I was 94. Spent about 6 months just driving, traveling all over, seeing old friends.
Right.
And I wound back up in Arizona. Got hooked up with a couple of guys. They were doing some skip traces and bail bond stuff.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest mistakes in my life.
What is that?
We went down to Mexico to pick up this guy. He had skipped out on like $50,000 of child support. And we had, his parents' address, this and that. Yeah, boom. We see him, we grab him. We'll just tell him we found him on our side of the border. Well, we start getting chased and guys taking shots at us. Fuck this. We hightail it out. We still got him in the van, but we get across the border, right? And now I'm thinking back, and I can't remember how we got a Mexican illegal also because he didn't have any ID or anything. Well, we called the bail bonds guy, tell him this, and that. He's like, hey, pull over at this rest stop. Next thing we know, the FBI's there. We're going to jail, right? They grab us, scoop us up, take us to Phoenix, come in. All right, this is your lucky day. We're not going to charge you with anything, but we don't ever want to see you guys again. You need to get new jobs, new professions with the debt. Okay, thank you, sir. We're going out and getting the drive away. We stopped at this place to grab some chow and try to figure out what's going on. And watching the TV in this little podunk restaurant, there's the FBI talking about how they've grabbed one of the lieutenants for a cartel. Turns out this is
you didn't know who you had, huh? You didn't know who you had.
No, we grabbed the wrong dude, and pretty sure statute of limitations is over on that. So yeah, but yeah, that was enough for me to see the handwriting on the wall. I started work in private security just because I needed a job. Right. That's where I met my wife. Best thing in my life. Yep. Yeah, she's listening. Absolutely the best thing in my life. Yeah. Worked there for about 6 months. Filled out an application for Arizona Department of Corrections. Got an immediate call up with them. Went in, did the interview, this and that. Boom. Got hired on there. Worked at the Aspen Special Programs Unit, which was code for, okay, you got all these psych predators, but they're doing good. They're on their meds, so they can go to an open yard. And that place was hopping all the time. State of Arizona, though, about the same as everywhere else, doesn't really pay their corrections officers enough. I did not know anybody who either didn't have enough, who worked there, didn't have a second job, or was trying to hound out over the overtime. And found out later because I was there for 23. Well, I was there there was a sergeant there, Irene Machado. She might, no, you would never think. She told me about the feds. And the first time she told me about it, I'm like, she can't have this. No. You can work overtime. You can go on leave and work overtime. I'm like, yeah, this is sounding too good to be true. And then I found out that 10% of the officers on duty in the state of Arizona, for the Arizona Department of Corrections, are special investigative services investigating the other 90%. And maybe it was just because I was at a psych prior unit, none of those guys had any money or anything, but I got to thinking, wow, this has really got to be a dirty organization.
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah.
1 in 10 or wow. So I applied and I wound up getting picked up at Phoenix, FBI.
What year
That
was
was a place to work. I worked there 8 years as an officer, 6.5 as a GS8, and probably 6 or 7 years there with the overtime. I was able to double my base pay
What
or
year?
better.
What year did you start there, Bob?
Phoenix 90,
Say again.
1998.
98. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember though, because I'd come from the state, getting there, I was like, and okay, it's an FCI, it's not Penn. I was like, man, officers and staff here are wimps, and that theory, especially towards lieutenants, because I mean, honestly, the only thing I saw lieutenants doing at that time was they stayed in the office, smoked cigarettes,
Right.
and then came out and did rounds.
Yeah. Drink their coffee and that's about it. Yeah. Yep.
That lasted until Donnie Cartret showed up there. We were having some problem. There was like 8 or 9 of these white boys. They call them the Arizona boys or something like that.
Yep.
They moved. They'd all get together and complain and write it up. So the lieutenants were like, "Oh, well, let them go. It's okay. Boom." Cartret showed up, and yeah, a lot of people thought he was a new 9, but the way he carried himself, and first thing he did was, "What? They're doing what at the rec yard? Okay, put him against the wall, put him in cuffs. That's a group demonstration."
Right.
Went over there, took care of them, wrote it up. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, this guy's got a set. He knows what's going on. Well, second times, there was a other white boy. I think he was a member of the Arizona area or something. Big kid. Thought he was tough. Catcalled a female staff member. Cartret had us bring him to the office. He said, "Yeah, put him in my office." He walks in there. I'm in there. He's like, "I don't need you. I'll call you when I need you." Okay, LT. Close the door. There's some yelling. Kids puffing up, and then mother this. Let me. LT, you good? Yeah, I'm good. But this big tough kid comes out. He's wiping his eyes, crying. Cartret said, "Put his ass in cuffs and take him to shoot."
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, what's the cat called sexual suggestions to a female staff member? He wants to play? We'll send him where the dogs growl. All the way over here, kids are, "I didn't mean it." I'm like, dude, come on. Yeah. First, I was a hound for overtime. When I say that, I mean, there's a few years there. I did in excess of 1,000 hours of overtime.
Jeez, damn. Wow.
This is one of the first times me and Cartret ever got to talk. I'm working shoe, and he calls me up and he says, "Hey, I got to mandate you." I'm like, "Mandate?" And he tells me, I said, "No, I already told him I didn't want to work that." And I hung up on him. Well, surprisingly, Donnie took that the wrong way.
Imagine that.
Coordinate
You
and
hang up on him.
comes over the radio. Ventura, report to lieutenant's office on the radio. Okay. Well, I guess by the time I got over there, some of the other lieutenants had talked to him and told him how I was. So I come in, he closes the door, he says, young troop, do you or do you not know what a mandate is? Like, no. What is that? And he explains it to me. He says, you've never, I said, LT, they've never had to. The whole time I've worked here, there's like 2, maybe 3 times I've turned down a overtime.
Right.
But the whole thing is you need this post filled, right? Yeah, you got to do it. Hang on a second. Okay, use your phone. Hey, yeah, you owe me. Yeah, at overtime they called about, you take it. I'm not taking a mandate. You owe me. Okay. Yeah, my officer's going to take it. And he looks at me and says, oh, so you got it like that.
Yeah.
I do favors for people, LT.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You take care of each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Now it's time to pick up. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, he wrote those guys up, got them out. They figured out, okay, they make him acting lieutenant. I'm on day off. About halfway down my first Corona, I get a call from the institution. Hey, you got your blues? Yeah. Well, you better get in here. We've had a homicide.
Yeah. I
respond, the other GS-11 out in front of the institution, or the GS-11, Donnie's acting, is out in front of the institution. He's got a cigarette burning in his hands and one in his mouth, just walking back. And he goes, see Cartret, he's got it. See Cartret, he's got it. See Cartret, he's got it. I go into the rec yard, and this is, I think it's early August. Weather is nice.
Mm-hmm.
We have about 1,000 inmates out here on the rec yard. Both the mobiles are posted up outside the fence.
Right.
And I know something strange. There's a staff member with a shotgun on the yard, the rec yard where the inmates are.
Just one staff member? Just one staff member?
Yeah, well, we had the 2 mobiles.
Yeah.
They were a couple extra staff members with guns outside the fence. And I remember it's this big useless rec guy, Beauchamp. He was so heavy when he walked, it looked like he's going upstream. And Cartret's there, and he's giving people listening. He says, bring them up 10 at a time. Search them down to their underwear.
Right.
We got to find, because guy had his head smashed flat. Beauchamp comes up and he's shaking. Oh, Lieutenant, I don't think I could shoot a person with this. Cartret snatches that away from him. Get away from me. He looks around. I'm coming up. Ventura. Yes, sir. You got a problem with shooting anybody? No, Lieutenant. Here, take this. He says, if one of those fucks gets up without being told to, you make it the last thing he does in this life. Mm-hmm. You combat reload and you get my staff off. Yes, Lieutenant. Checked it. Yeah, boom. He found the guy who had done it. The guy had been killed, was a member of the Jewish Defense League, and he'd set fire to a couple of Aryan churches.
Right.
So, with the heavy Aryan compliment we had, the powers that be decided it was okay to send him there. He came, went into SHU, they double-checked everything, let him out, had chow, went back to the unit, got dressed for the rec yard, went to the rec yard, and got his head pancaked.
So, they use rocks or feet or what?
We used to have this, around the track was this big, thick mortar. Donnie found it on camera. The guy, the kid who did it, sitting there with the other 2 or 3 members of the Aryan Brotherhood. They get 2. They bring out the extra clothes and show it to him. I mean, it's almost, hey, we want to get caught. They got the 2 fishnet laundry bags, and they go walking around the track shopping for mortar and getting kitchen pieces loose and putting it in there. So he took care of that, wrote it up, boom. And next thing I know is, because he'd taken a bus to be with his family. He was a 9. They made him an acting 11.
Right.
And he's about, Beaumont's got a GS13 slot open.
Mm-hmm.
EPO. Says I might go there. Looks like they need some help. I'm like, but that was the first time I saw somebody who, carried himself like, hey, I'm in charge.
Yeah.
And could back it up.
He made decisions. Yeah. Made decisions, stuck with him.
Yeah. I mean, it's like good, bad, and different. Do something.
Did that leave a big impression on you? I mean,
it
did. I mean, you probably saw, like you were saying, how some of the other lieutenants were just sipping coffee and smoking cigarettes, standing outside the office. And
there's that, and we talked about it because I was telling him I was thinking about putting in to be a lieutenant, right. And he said, "Well, says nothing against the guys that are here, because we had some good lieutenants there and stuff." He says, "But there's always a difference between the guys who train and prepare for this and the guys who've trained, prepared, and done it."
Right.
And when he explained to me he had been a lieutenant at Atlanta for like 16 years.
Right. Yep.
Holy Christ.
Yeah, so seen everything, really.
Yeah. Yeah, so he left there. I went to Petersburg to get my 9.
Right.
That was the first time I met you. You came there. You were thinking about transferring. You came there to check out the institution.
Yep.
Yeah. And that was an eye opener too, as far as how the bureau runs, especially with the union. Because like at Phoenix, every once in a while, I'd see Linda Dorn, who was the union president. She'd come over to the lieutenant's office, something. Captain might ask her, "We got a need for a labor LMR meeting this month?" "Nah, I ain't got anything." "Okay. Call me if you need anything." Boom. I get to Petersburg, and they have to have an LMR meeting every 2 weeks. The entire E-board has to be there for the LMR meeting.
Yeah.
And the entire E-board has to have the rest of the day off so they can prepare their memo for a memo response to what happened at the meeting. I'm thinking, really?
It takes 5 or 6 people to do that, huh?
Yeah. And the entire E-board. Then while I was there, because we had to start mandating people. Oh, also, I was there when they just opened a couple of years, they'd had the FCI open, and the pin had been downgraded to a low because it was so old. After I was there for a while, I realized what had happened, why we were having so much problems at the FCI.
Right.
All the senior staff with the seniority had jumped ship and went over. We literally had no officers teaching the young. Set up as the FCI at Pollock.
Yep.
And things you had to move. That was a nightmare because all the inmates would come out to the walkways, center, and stop and talk.
Mm-hmm.
The union there, when we started to have to mandate people to work, they got together because they were on their bowling night, and the warden lived in the old housing on base. And they went over to her house and they convinced her to agree to this agreement. Because if you're going to mandate somebody, it has to be the person. You have to start with the person who has the least seniority on shift. Now, the reason that was the everybody in the union was the old GS8s for the old GS8s.
Right.
I can remember like 2 or 3 good young officers that left the Bureau because we were mandating them too much. The only thing was you couldn't mandate them 2 days in a row. But what that meant, like for evening watch,
Yeah.
that
Hit every time.
there's some guys that do 3 times a week.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you're not built for that, or you don't want that, because you and I both know a lot of it is psychological. You remember back to the officer, hey, I'm going to work on the compound. Cool. Go in. Ventura, you're in control. Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
No, come on.
Yep.
You know, boom.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I can see, like, I all the times I've dealt with the union, good and bad. I mean, they're there for a reason. But I mean, I mean, a lot of people, anyone listening to this, they take advantage of it to like to an extreme, to where it's like, why are you guys even here? Like, you could have just stayed home and I could have done a lot more work without you, because it's just a hassle the entire time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And
they're there for a reason. I understand, but like they just take advantage of it, so.
And it's needed, but yeah, like you said, I mean, they take advantage, massive advantage of it. Mm-hmm. Right before I left, they had this old GS8. I mean, I don't know. He was old. I mean, I think he was coming up on his final couple of years in the Bureau. He had been there. It had been a 10. And oh my God, the E-board wanted to he got elected to president, and the E-board wanted to get rid of him because one of the first things he told him was, we're gonna shuffle through some of this stuff, and it's this stuff that doesn't have any weight or merit. We're not gonna take this to LMR. Yeah. And when we do go to LMR, after the meeting's over, you're gonna have 1 hour to do your memo up, which I don't even know why everybody's got to write a memo, and then we're gonna go back to work. Oh, he's in the management's pocket. He's this, he's that, But I mean, I remember thinking that was the first time I was like, okay, yeah, that's a GS8.
Yeah, old school GS8. Yep.
He's taking care of himself, staff, and the institution at the same time. Yeah. And then I obviously had my paperwork in to be an 11, got picked up at Pollock, come down here. Wow. That was 2009, February. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Little eye-opening, to say the least.
It was off the chain, out of the yard, down the street, mauling the postman.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember my first day there. I was like, what the hell is this? Oh yeah.
I come in, they put me on the watch, and I got a brand new GS9 Van Johnson. I knew him from Phoenix, but he wasn't about doing no work. I don't know if he's still in or not. Mm-hmm. But yeah. I would come in I'm not a religious man, but after a while, when I got there, I'd take a couple minutes in the car and I'd pray. God, somebody's got to get hurt or killed. Just don't let it be a staff member. Mm-hmm. And I'd come in about 3:10, 3:15, time enough to get my lunch in the fridge. Because if you were having recall, you were having to run to the recall body alarm.
Everybody's out there. Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I talked to a couple of the old GS8s that were there. And one of them, he just told me the truth, explained it to me. He says, nah, he says, listen. He says, a pen warden gets senior executive staff status. That's beyond a GS15.
Yeah.
Okay. And I never really looked at it, but yeah, okay. He says, well, that's why everybody wants it. Here's the thing. When they opened this up, they didn't have any pen lieutenants. I'm like, okay. So they sent an FCI lieutenant or an FCI warden. And wow. Oh, you got to keep programming them. Well, what a lot of people also don't realize is when you open up a new penitentiary. If you listen close, all throughout the region, you can hear the sound of flushing.
Yep.
Everybody's sending their dirt bags to you.
All going downstream to
Boom.
Pollock.
Yep. You get all the shit birds, all the troublemakers and stuff. Well, I remember when you got there, we probably had 200-300 other inmates that were in other shoes or in the pipeline that were ours, and we had 3-man cells in shoe.
Right.
Yeah.
Busy
I
place.
mean,
Mhm.
I got there, it was way before we had the fences. So if the lieutenant could get off, I could get off the desk from trying to hire overtime.
Right.
Had 2 compounds, a 9 and 11 lieutenant out there trying to control 1,200 penitentiary thugs running around in their own little cars and stuff.
Mhm.
You know, boom. One of my saddest memories when I first got there, and God bless Hodge. He's a great compound officer. He's a counselor now, if you remember him. Big dude.
Yep.
Yeah, good man.
Oh yeah.
But we'd done recall, and I hear the housing units talking, like, go 3, go 3. Hodge's like, Lieutenant, don't go to 3. Lieutenant, I'm telling you, don't go to 3. Lieutenant, you do not. I don't want to find out what's going on. I go to 3. Hey, you ready to open the stairwell? Because I got about 25 out of bound in here. Okay, I got about 15. I'm going to send them down. I don't know how the hell we ever got away from having a body in those stairwells. But this was every night, and it was every housing unit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When my first set of rounds I made, I come back to the lieutenant's office. I remember I told John Bacon and Johnny Fonterra were there, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to do up a memo. We got to the metal detectors are in the unit, the walkthroughs, they're in the wrong spot. You cannot be in that area with your keys without setting it off. You can't open the pod door without it off. And you can't open the door to the unit team without setting them off.
Mm-hmm.
We move them. Oh, no, Bobby, you can't do that. Why not? It's the truth. No, you understand. The warden told us where to put them, so that's got to be where they got to be. They can't be in the wrong spot. This, what I'm telling you, will come up later, because it almost bit us all in the ass. I'm like, oh, I did my number anyways. Captain, whoever, wasn't the Hispanic guy, he had just left. I think we were on temps or something. Hey, don't send this stuff to me, the AWs and the warden anymore. You got anything, you send it to me, and I'll trash it out for you.
Right.
Okay. I go to my first lieutenant's meeting. And this is back when it used to be lieutenants and department heads, right?
Yep.
And God bless Keffer. They say he turned into a real live person once he left.
Who's that?
Keffer. He was the warden.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And he was trying. He was trying real hard, but you could tell he was just overwhelmed. I mean, nothing was working. It was holy Christ. We're in this lieutenant's meeting, and starts off with and then this guy, and they're coming down here, and they're like on the 3rd or 4th department head, and Keffer's sitting in a chair. He's in the middle, and he's like, let me tell you what else I don't want. I am sick of who dat. I don't care who dat. I don't want to hear staff members saying who dat or discussing the Super Bowl anymore. Blah, 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 Yeah. I'm directly across from Lieutenant Draves. I look across at him, and Draves look at me like,
Don't do it.
don't say anything, Bobby. And I'm looking around this room, and I'm like, am I the only one in here that realizes the captain of the ship I know why the Titanic went down now. The guy said, head straight for the iceberg. We'll ram it. I'm like, holy Christ. That was, and I couldn't believe, and they're like, and then Draves tells me later, he says, no, listen, he says, unless it's good news, which you ain't going to have any of here,
Right.
you don't want to talk to the warden about it.
Do you think he was out of his element as far as being there as warden, or?
I think so. That, and I mean, literally nothing was working. We had, I'll say it, I'm retired. A lot of the AWs at the time were completely incompetent.
Right.
They had seen, oh, I like that pay grade, and skipped over the duties and responsibilities.
Yeah.
AW Bo, he would come by at the end of the day and drop off some incident reports for inmates who hadn't shown up for work.
That happened at 8 a.m. Yeah.
8 in the morning.
Yep.
I said, Bo, where are these guys at? Oh, they're not at work.
Accountability.
Okay. Your guys wrote these shots.
I remember that, man.
Lieutenant's office so we can lock down? We can't lock down just so inmates not being at work.
Yeah, we got to find them.
Get a hold of you.
Yeah.
Well, you and Officer did a census. He should have known. Bo, all you're doing is handing me paperwork that if this guy's dead or escaped, saying your supervisors knew about it at 8 o'clock this morning and took no action. No, you just need to serve those. Ooh, okay. Seriously,
right into the garbage.
Yeah. Well, then we get in trouble for not serving incident report, right? Again, Johnny Fonterra's in there, right? We pull in a couple of guys. Officer had found shanks in their cell. I went over, took a look. They had to have the clotheslines tied to their lockers because they cut so many shank blanks out of it. If you cut the clotheslines loose, it was going to collapse. We bring them over there. They've got history for making weapons, this and that. I'm telling them, okay, hey, turn around, cuff up. We're going to take you to shoe. Johnny's like, no. Just read them the shot, Bobby. I'll explain it to you. I'm like, you two, put them in the tank. I'm like, they had weapons in their cell. Yeah, but they weren't carrying them. So we can say, they're going to say it was for defense.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, all we did was ram a shot. And, we were so many people in shoe. Like, holy Christ.
Yeah, I remember that, like going around, like running sentry reports on like possessions of weapons, and there was so many inmates in general population that it was like incredible how many inmates had weapon charges, and they're on the yard, and they we know they had still had them on them probably.
Yeah, right before I got there was a guy who had killed an inmate on the yard, and he went to court for it, and with the help of staff testimony, because whoever the prosecutor was didn't go over what they were going to say with him, general, hey, did it. He was able to convince the jury that Pollock was such a violent place that he had to carry a weapon to be able to defend himself.
Jesus.
Yeah. I remember thinking, it was like the first, second week I was there, I was like, I don't think I'm a wimp, but if I'd started as an officer here, I don't know if I'd still be employed with the Bureau of Prisons.
Right.
This is the real deal. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Yes, sir.
And that went on for a red hot minute. We got Captain Wingo in. I don't know if you were there when he was there.
Yeah.
He showed up, and his whole thing was, oh, well, they're going to let me be captain at Pollock, so I'll go down there for a year, maybe 18 months. Then they'll let me be an AW. And he did not come in with the idea that he's going to have to put some work in. And he's one of those guys, if he got stressed out, he drank.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember, Pollock could be a little stressful.
A little bit.
He showed up to his initial response to almost everything that was going on or that went wrong was the lieutenants don't know what they're doing. None of them are trained. They're not qualified. They're useless.
Oh, that's when we had the remember we had the lieutenants come in from other institutions to train us.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And during that time, Cohen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cohen said something at a meeting, and I was like, all right. Because he's like, hey, just, do what you got to do, blah, 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 blah. He says, and these guys, to hell with them. He says, most of them are going over to the FCI. And even over there, they're traveling in a group of two. I don't see any of them over here at the pin, walking around by themselves, doing rounds.
I think they'd come over at the 4:00 count, and by good verbal, they're gone. They're back at the medium. Yeah.
Yeah. And Wingo showed up. Well, that kind of, all the lieutenants being incompetent and not knowing what they were doing kind of backfired on him, because the warden told him anytime there's a use of force, especially in SHU or any, planned use of force, you're going to be there to direct. So he shows up half looped, embarrassed himself on camera.
Right.
Boom. So he gets to head out. We start getting we're getting temporary captains come in, and we had other institutions, staff were coming down to, hey, staff assistant stuff. And a rep walked in to the lieutenant's office. I was standing there, kind of almost smiled. He comes over, Bobby. I mean, he knows a bunch of people. He met two guys all the way, but he comes up, he hugs me, he says, hey, you big gorilla looking SOB, smile. I'm like, he says, no, smile for me. I'm gonna be your new captain. And I'm thinking, oh God, please.
Thank the Lord. My prayers have been answered.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, I remember that made my day.
I remember me and Tipton were SHU lieutenants. I was the PM SHU lieutenant, and it was one of them days that that place was absolutely on fire, and it was just covered in gas.
Yeah,
I remember him, Cartret, Gradiska, and the warden. What's his name? Beginning with a S. Sheridan, something like that. I think it was Sheridan.
Sherrod,
yeah, Sherrod. So when we were busy in SHU, usually you wouldn't respond to the door, and hey, captain's on the door, warden's on the door. You don't want to come in here. Everybody's got gas masks on. Huh? What's that?
I'm taking care of business. I'm downrange.
We all got gas masks on. The place is just, I mean, it was horrible, terrible how bad it was. I remember they came in, Cartret's like looking around like, what the hell's going on here? Sherrod runs across. He's already got boogers coming streaming out of his nose. There's so much gas in that place. And we go out to the rec yard, and me and Tipton were like, take our mask off. He's like, what the hell's going on down here? It's just another day. We just gotta, just a couple uses of forces we're doing at the same time. Yeah. Oh man, it's great. Good times. Yeah.
My house hunting trip at Transu with SHU lieutenant.
Yeah.
I went down there because he tried to talk me out of coming down. I told him, I'm like, no, this is my house hunting trip. If I don't come down here, I'll
Yeah,
stay
big
a
money.
night forever.
Yeah.
It'll be worth it. Don't come. But when I walked into shoe, I'm like, and I can, me, the gas on the wall.
Yeah. Right.
I walk in, I'm like, damn, that's strong. We go in his office. I'm like, how much gas did you use on that cell? Looks at me and says, cell? I gassed the entire range. As soon as they bring me some more gas, I'm going for the other range. Like, holy Christ. Yeah, that should have been a hint too. Oh, but yeah, Sherrod. Okay, he gets there, and his main thing was staff need to have, especially correctional services, need to have their boots polished and the uniforms pressed. Because if you look professional, inmates will follow your instructions and not assault you.
Really? Really? Yeah.
Well, that's what we've been doing wrong all this time. So he's there. Now, the one thing, I think he was the guy put the idea started or the financing pushed through, because I know it takes a while to get the inner fences up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But he's there. Donnie comes down as captain. And then, because Sherrod was only there for a year, but he's looking at some stuff and he wants to write up every housing unit officer on all 3 shifts, write them up, because remember I said this will come back later, nobody's using the metal detectors. So I dig out my memo and I send it up. I'm like, they're in the wrong place. You cannot be in there with your keys without setting it off. You
Weren't
can't.
they were originally inside the unit, weren't they? Right?
No.
Oh, they're at the door. They're at the door, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. In the Sally port.
Open the door. You couldn't open the pod door.
Right.
Couldn't open, be there with your keys. And if you did pull one guy over to shake him down, 10 went that way and 15 went that way while you're doing that.
Yep. I actually have some good video of that where the metal detectors were still in the Sally port with a bunch of assaults and all kinds of crazy stuff going on right there, right in that Sally port. Yeah. I remember. Yep.
But he wanted to write everybody up. And Donnie's like, no, you can't. He's like, listen, if this is a systemic problem, everybody's doing it, it's not their fault. This falls on the lieutenants for training and ultimately the captain.
Mm-hmm.
That's when, remember, we got him out of the unit for a little bit, did all the retraining with the pat search and everything, and then we put him back inside the unit.
Yeah. Yep.
And then Cartret's also, because see, he is as advertised. He did come there to help and to keep people safe. I got that back. Keep people safe and to help. And he'd be damned if, he's going to if he was at an institution, you were his staff. He was going to take care of you, even if that meant he had to boot.
Yeah.
But he was going to take care of you and get you right.
Right. And
he did that, and the union got wind of that. And I'm like, and I was starting to get friends with Logan. He was in the union. I was like, no, I says, Cartret would, I said, I'd have taken the write-up, and Cartret would have taken the write-up if it came to that. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing is you got to have leadership from the top down.
Right.
As long as you know there's somebody in charge, and the buck stops there, makes the whole chain that much tighter and work that much better. Started doing that. That's also when Cartret was like, you know what? Almost all these assaults, if you look at it, is somebody who's out of bounds. So maybe we couldn't lock you up in shoe, but we could stuff 22, 30 guys in the lieutenant's holding cell for being out of bounds and hold them there like all day.
Yeah.
Pretty soon word got out, hey, don't be out of bounds.
Same with the boots too, wearing the boots on the yard. Yeah. Remember we took the boot program and everybody who wasn't on a work assignment had to wear sneakers. Everybody else would get the boots wherever their work assignment was. Yeah. I don't know if they're were they still doing that when before you left?
Actually, after Brister's assault, the union and the guy passed bureau wide, we took the boots.
Mhm.
So yeah, but we came up with that pilot program about if you need that for your work, you can pick
Yeah.
it up at your work site. No, dude, you have a. It's the same as having a shank in your cell if you got a set of boots in your cell.
Yeah. I remember
Yeah.
many times them
So,
guys getting kicked in the head with those boots.
yeah, the best thing that happened to Pollock was Donnie Cartret coming to be captain.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. And right after Sherrod, because he was captain there, we got Warden Martinez.
Yep.
That was probably the second best thing because he was an old time penitentiary warden. When you have your first meeting between the warden and the lieutenants and the department, it's usually just, this is my vision and we're going to do this and he walked in. Donnie was in his chair. He says, "Yeah, sit there. I'm not going to be here long." He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the business of a USP is to be locked down. If an inmate puts his hands on a staff member, I want an emphatic message sent that this will not be tolerated. If you do not understand what I am telling you, get with me and Captain Cartret. We will find another zip code for you to be employed in." Donnie, he's staying up, so going down. "You got it. I'm taking the rest of the day off."
What,
And that was
you know where they knew each other? Did they know each other from somewhere else? You know?
I don't know, but
Yeah.
he had faith in Donnie.
Yeah.
Because Donnie said, and he had faith in his lieutenants for overall most part, because if Donnie said you were good and you were solid,
Yeah, you take care of it.
Lieutenant, and you couldn't get a hold of the AW or the captain,
Can't make a decision. Mm-hmm. Yep.
you know what, handle your business. I'll read the report on Monday.
Yeah.
So you need, morning watch, you need gas. Just justify what you use.
I think it was it Mark? Yeah, it was Martinez, I believe, or was it Carvajal when we put the less lethal locker in there? Who was that? You remember?
That
Was it
was
Martinez?
Yeah, it was Martinez because
Yeah,
Donnie voted up.
Yeah,
Donnie,
yeah.
And he at first, because they weren't now. Well, can we get a? He got us a waiver. Remember, we used to have to go around and change out those waivers every quarter. Oh yeah, but yeah, Donnie, and I mean, that's when staff started to realize he actually was there to help. Was when he stood up for him on that one.
Yeah.
Some of the other stuff. I remember coming in. I think he'd only been there a couple of months, and the control room officer, "Lieutenant Ventura, Lieutenant Ventura." I'm like, "Yeah, Captain Cartret ordered the tower to shoot an inmate." He ordered him he ordered him to stick the gun at, rack around and point at him. Okay, yeah, it sounds like Donnie.
What we're supposed to do. Yeah.
I go in and I keep running into other people and stuff. Finally, I'm like, "Hey, rumor mill's got you, man. You killed 12, injured 24. I'm like, "What happened?" He says, "Nah," he says, that guy, he's general of the Aryan Brotherhood." I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "He was talking some smack, and I told him shut up and move on."
Or shoot you in the back.
Yeah. And that guy's like, "I don't think you understand. I'm in charge here." Guy, Donnie's like, "Hey, Tower, see this inmate in front of me? I don't know if he has a weapon or not, and he's refusing my orders. Stick the barrel at 16 out, put it on his back. He doesn't get down, put him down." "Oh, you're crazy, man."
Yeah.
Up, took him to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Who
was that? Rooster? Was it Rooster they're gonna?
No, this was the guy before Rooster, because after that guy had that head on with Cartret, he was going like fat, lickety split gone.
Jesus.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah. And then yeah, Sherrod and then Martinez. And then after Donnie, we got a bunch of temporary captains.
Well, then Carvajal came in too. What do you
Yeah,
think about that? How do you what do you think about that?
Carvajal was a good warden,
Yeah, yeah,
but a lot of times, if you were talking to him, after a few minutes, you'd get the idea that he wasn't talking to you, he was talking at you.
or he's not listening anymore. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, well, that was it. If he made his mind up about how it was, that's how it was. He he was a great politician.
Mhm.
He was good for Pollock at the time because he got a lot of stuff done.
Right.
I don't know if no, that was under Keffer, but yeah, when they tried to get the 75 cell phones
Mhm.
in through the camp, and the one camper lost his nerve and told a staff member and stuff. We wrote all that up. That changed policy nationwide because they just never had the money to put in or in the budget or kept it in the budget to buy the X-ray machine.
Mhm.
So guys over there would do is sign paperwork off saying it had and look it over and then bring it to the rear gate. But yeah, Donnie left and we had a bunch of temp captains.
Mhm.
And then after that, I mean, you've seen it too. There was some of the people they sent there to be captain, AWs or warden, and you're like, Region knows what this place is. How are they giving this person?
Yeah, I know. I mean, even like when I got EPO, like the next day they made me acting captain.
Yeah,
I can't remember how long it was for, but um some reason they wouldn't let Gradiska come over to be acting captain, which they should have done, from the get go, right?
yeah.
And then I remember it's like, man, what, like just scratching my head, like, I just picked up 12. Why am I already acting captain? And I mean, I didn't have a problem doing it, and it
No,
was
you were
definitely
good.
definitely a tough assignment because I mean,
Yeah,
you step on the other side, you're like, what the hell is going on here? You don't see you don't see that the inside things that go on, the politics of it, if you want to call it that, of what really goes
yeah.
on between the
This group
AW
of
board
cowboy
and
crybabies
yeah,
in the institution, you got to run roughshod the lieutenants.
yeah. And then I remember they sent in that dude Tucker Hill. I remember, and and right there,
One time,
right there, I said, um, yeah,
let me
we
see
got problems.
right
Yeah,
there. Tucker Hill was smarter than all those people that sent him there together. See, first
right.
of all, he was Carvajal's, the second person Carbajal had sent there to be captain, so he couldn't fail because Carbajal can't be wrong.
Hmm.
I used to actually talk to him, really talk to him, right? He never wanted to come to Pollock. He wanted to go to DC. His brother's got a ranch or something, like train ride 40 minutes outside, out and back, right?
Right.
Didn't want to come to Pollock. So what? He never answered any of his emails. He knew exactly how little he had to do. And after a while, they figured he was incompetent. And what did they do with him? They sent him to DC where he wanted to be.
Yep.
Boom.
Yep.
You know. But yeah, uh, I
Which
remember.
stuff like that still amazes me that, I mean, out of the nine institutions I went to, I mean, I don't want to sound like egotistical, but it's like, I think I earned that, as far as like promoting up and stuff like that. But then you look at people that just show up and, like you said, do bare minimum, like barely
Yeah,
get by, and they still, hey, guess what? We're going to send you to where you want to go instead of
yeah,
like, slapping them on the hand, put them in timeout, whatever the hell you want to call it. But
yeah,
I mean, that's just the way it was, and it's still like that today.
yeah.
So
Well, somehow giving everybody a fair chance at getting the job got translated to, oh, we gotta give this person more points or because of their gender, who
right,
they are. Not
right,
are they qualified, but who they are.
or who
Yeah,
they know.
yeah.
Same with that,
Oh,
who they know too. So I mean, that's
yeah.
that's obvious.
Oh, yeah, that's a big thing because it's like, yeah, you know, Floyd. You remember him?
Who, Dan, Dan Floyd.
Floyd.
Yeah,
He's always on morning watch. Dan
yeah,
Floyd.
yeah, yeah.
He, there wasn't anything in corrections he couldn't do or hadn't done.
Right.
He never called in any favors from anybody, did anything.
You're still there. You're good.
I'm still good. All
Yep.
right. Never did any of that. And I talked to him one time. He had been putting in to be captain since 1996, two
Jesus.
years before I came in the bureau.
Yeah.
Yeah. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Oh yeah.
Back up. I don't know what's going on. Oh, and I also remember the worst day in the bureau. You got chosen to be captain over me. I'm kidding about that. But you were acting captain. That was the day Rafe got hit.
Yeah. Yep.
Holy Christ.
Yeah. I mean, I remember that day, and oh, God, man, I cannot remember that kid's name. I shouldn't say kid, but the guy. He eventually passed away a few years after that. The one that got hit in the head with the lock in the sock.
Oh,
I
yeah.
cannot remember his name though.
That wasn't on shift then.
Yeah, yeah, I
But yeah,
remember. Yeah,
Rafe thing. Remember a blonde lieutenant who Cartret had previously referred to as a GS8 with a gold badge.
true. Yep.
She relieved me, and I was like, well, listen, we got this going on. Everybody's getting ready. Go forward, knock out the armory, hit the mobiles, then get back in here. You know, you got a qualified GS9, da da da, and oh, girl in control who was a 7. She had put in for it, and she'd got control 1 on the relief post. I had been either Rossing or adjusting her to control 2 or out of control because I didn't feel control. She'd only been in like 6, 7 months.
Right. Yeah.
Well, she went to the union and complained that I was denying her the right to get the experience of being in control.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yeah, that was the first day. They told, hey, don't roster adjust her again. It's her post. If she can't pull it, she can't pull it, but leave her there. Boss, leave her there. Okay. All right. I think it was me and you even had that conversation because they were coming down on you
Yep.
about it. But yeah, I'm walking out the door. Mobile pulls by and said, Lieutenant, body alarm. Sounds like I was walking out. I'm talking to another staff member, shoulder to shoulder here. Sounds like a staff member's been assaulted. I turn around and run back, and my big dumb butt, I think I'm the first. I pull the door open to let him in. I look around. He's gone. I get in there. Operations lieutenant, remember she'd went down to do the armory. She's banging on the window. Let me in, let me in. I get there. Let us in, let us in. She's in control. The staff member's been assaulted. We have a body alarm. Let us in. We need to take care of it. We get in there, you know, the whole thing was a shit show. I think I wound up leaving out of there like 7:30 that night, 8 o'clock, and had
Yep. I remember
yeah
that.
back for midnight. But yeah, we got in there. Rafe had been hit. She, same chick. tried to open. This is when I sent Martinez, the little barrel-chested guy up there, who was a GS8, to take control because she had opened the slider to get the gurney out about that much.
Right.
And she kept telling people over the intercom that the slider's open. And Rafe's there bleeding out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I could not believe this, and rough day. I remember we had to take him down to Oakdale, had to keep the camera on him. I still got a cramp in my arm from that, man. All the way down. Stuff. Yeah.
Mm.
And I've always wanted to ask you, why didn't you want me to go over and pick up the second one? Did you think I was going to go overboard or force the situation?
Well, I just knew some people had to be taken out of that position.
Okay.
The potential. I mean, the potential's there. I mean, you see a staff members gravely injured like that. I mean, to
I appreciate
people, same people who responded to the initial, that's probably not a good idea,
I wouldn't have went over there to assault him, but I wouldn't take crap from him either.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, good looking out. And I remember the congressional inquiry that came after that, because like I said, we kept the cameras on all the way down.
Yeah.
Oakdale, they have their cameras, they're taking photos. One of those photos got leaked to some inmate advocacy group.
I remember.
They go to some senator or congressman. Look at this. This is what the people at Pollock did to this poor man. And then they transferred him to another prison to cover it up. Never mind the fact that that's complete policy. Just assault a staff member. You can't keep in the same house.
Right.
Boom. Yeah. Because the guy who was, I can't remember his name. I can picture him. The human resources, he was in charge. He came in there. He was giving us a hand because the operations lieutenant, what had happened brought back all the horrible, terrible stuff that she had experienced in Navy admin. So she was having PTSD.
From what I remember, I relieved her of everything, and I told her just to go home. I actually had her keys on me.
Yeah, I remember because it's before you got there. She's out in the smoking pit. I'll be in a minute. I'll be in a minute. I'll be in a minute.
So I remember seeing her. I said, "Give me your stuff and go home," because because she was like, like white. Her face was just white from whatever she saw. So
I was coming back from something. And I said, "Where's operations?" And they said, "Captain's here." Like, okay, where's Captain took her keys.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank God. Yeah.
Out there, I remember the yard. The yard. There was like inmates running around. It was unsecured. And it was just like, hey, shut everything down. Everything's shut down. And we just, I remember that.
Yeah. Oh, are you sure? I mean, because we're going to have visitation today. We've had an assault. There's not going to be any visitation.
No visitation. Yeah.
Put a sign up and pull that officer back. Visitation staff, get back here now. Yeah. Yeah, that was a terrible day. And then, what was it? At my retirement party, one of I think it was Miss G was there. And we were talking, and she says, everybody that was there that day said we should have written you up for an award, but Carbajal wouldn't have it. I'm like, I never figured out that relationship with him because he trusted me to run the institution. But he literally hated me.
Why do you think that? Just something? You just had that feeling?
Yeah.
I mean, he was very difficult to figure out. I mean, there was no good side or bad side that he could get on. I don't think there's just that. That's it. It's either you're in or you're out kind of thing. Because I mean, before I left, he was like, you got to stop being a robot. I'm like, what do you mean being a robot? Well, you don't show any emotion. I'm like, well, I've been working here for almost 5 years. There is no emotion here. This is like the worst freaking place in the world.
There's no left,
It's a
boss.
battlefield every freaking day. What do you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
We're right in the middle of the shit, you know? Yeah, interesting. So
Mm.
what happened after so once you decided to start retiring, because I know you talked to me earlier about your retirement. So do you mind talking about that?
Yeah, I'd talk about it. I had plans on going till I was 57, which is the age I'm at now.
Right.
But yeah, it's I lost my temper with an inmate.
Yeah.
He slipped cuffs and was coming up, and I got the first punch in. But powers that be just told me, hey, be retired by this date because first of next month we're referring it, and we got it on camera.
Jesus. Terrible.
So, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
You know,
'Cause how long you
I,
been retired now? 3 years, you said?
let's see, I got out in, yeah, February 2020. I mean, in retrospective, it's probably about, I mean, it was either that or have a stroke or a heart attack or something. I was at 293, 297. I was drinking all the time,
Yeah.
uh, trying to cope with the stress and stuff. Always
Oh,
liked to work out, but, that would always be like an afterthought. That's how you can tell I'm a fat man. I'm really happy about being down to 247. Lost about 50 pounds there. So, and I mean, I still keep in touch with the guys at work and stuff. Matter of fact, let's see, today's Friday. Wednesday night, I was talking to one of the guys used to be an officer. He's now in finance or no laundry,
mhm.
and he was sitting in on one of the lieutenants' meetings, and you're gonna love this. They got the lieutenants discussing. They're like, "Yeah, you ain't got to do rounds. Just don't put it in the book or sign that you did the rounds. Just tell them you're too busy." And I remember thinking, "Oh my god." Because I remember when Cartret was like, "Hey, we're going to have a move. Lieutenants are going to be out on the move."
Oh
That
yeah.
whole that whole his whole thought process on that was lieutenants are going to get tired of having to interrupt what they're doing, get up and come out here every hour. They're going to put their boots in the compound officers'
Mhm.
butts, make them do their job, and they'll start running this a little bit better.
Well, hell, I mean the moves. I remember doing the moves every unit. We stood in front of every single unit,
Yeah,
and it was. I mean, I liked it because that can aspect of the control was great. Because I mean, even like when I was working evening watch, I would have the tower. We did a move. I'd turn the light on them, the spotlight, and
yeah,
they'd be coming out the stairs with the spotlight on. And that's
yeah,
messed up. You doing that? Well, hey, you guys acting up? Guess what? We're gonna act up too.
yeah.
We got something for you. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah. Well, like I used to tell the officers and stuff, I was like, listen, inmates, small children, and household pets will get away with what you let them. You explain to them through action and verbiage that we're in charge and this is not going to be tolerated.
right.
Get them used to following orders. Then hey, there's a chance they might follow some orders. You
Yeah.
know?
Yep. You're gonna have that small percentage that no matter what you do, there's
Yeah.
just gonna be
Oh yeah.
anyway. So yeah.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
what do you think? You got any advice for any new staff or staff that are still working now? Some good advice from Bobby B. Let's hear it.
Oh, read your post orders because believe it or not, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
And I'll be honest with everybody. The post orders are there mainly to cover management's ass because when the shit hits the fan, we gave them written instructions right
I
here.
told them it's right there. They signed for it. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Uh, read those so you at least know what you're supposed to be doing. Find yourself or just look around. Somebody who knows what they're doing has confidence in what they're doing,
Yeah.
doing the right thing. Choose a mentor and stuff. Don't follow the crowd, because that'll get you killed.
Mm-hmm.
Always got to remember, same thing is why most people die in a survival situation. Human beings are basically lazy. You take the easy way out all the time, it's going to become habit. And sooner or later, the easy way, the cutting corners, it's going to come bite you in the ass. It's,
It's tough, Bobby. Good, man.
and look out for the other staff, even the shitbirds.
Yep.
Do what you can to help them. Don't
It's funny.
harm
You can like people don't realize you can actually correct things like that. Because when I went to Yazoo, I don't know if you've ever heard about the things that went on at Yazoo City.
I've heard some stuff.
Place is a disaster, absolute disaster. Nobody did anything, nothing. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm the new captain here. Let me try to make some changes. So I didn't want to do it at first. I looked around, saw what was going on. It's called all kinds of names, and I was a racist, and I was this, and I was that, and I was like, okay, it's gonna be pretty challenging. So I went out there, and you know what? I started pass searching inmates. I started doing, mass shakedowns. I started doing this. I started doing that. Within a few months, people were like, "Hey, yeah, we can actually run this place. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can. You can actually run this like a prison. It
yeah,
doesn't just takes a little more effort, about another 35% of your effort to come in here and do what you're supposed to do. Yeah, and it
yeah.
changed a lot of things. It was good. By
One of the
the time I left, it was good to go. So
one of the saddest things, I wasn't there for it, but I heard about this. The last captain we had, Boulay, wasn't much to talk about and stuff, but he decided he was going to do round, and this was after we'd gotten the 10-hour shifts and two officers
yeah,
unit, because somewhere up the chain of command they figured out if you get two officers, all three shifts in every unit, wow, you can get a lot more shakedowns and all this and that done, right? I mean, that 10 to 6 shift is just pure cream gravy. You, you're out. You don't
doing nothing.
have to be there when any inmates are out.
Yeah, yeah.
Work 4 days, boom. But anyways, Boulay, and I asked him about it, and he told me this was true. Boulay's making rounds. He comes in, he's going to do rounds on morning watch, right? Comes in a little after midnight, him and the lieutenant going around. There's a new rookie asleep in the office. Boulay wakes him up and says, "Hey, you can't be sleeping on duty." It's like, "Captain, don't you know policy?" And he's like, "What? I'm the number two. I'm supposed to be asleep, so if something happens, I can be fresh and ready." Yeah, that's what staff told him. And this kid, he's dumb enough he believed.
Probably a lieutenant now.
But I'm like, yeah,
And Jesus, wow. Mm. Of all places to act like that, to be so comfortable and just not giving a damn, that's terrible.
I've been beaten down, tired, but I don't think I have never fallen asleep inside the fence. I mean, I just
No,
couldn't imagine doing it.
right. Especially inside an institution, that's
And
terrible. Terrible. Yeah.
I'm like, that's like wanting to grab the kid, shake him. You realize there are killers? I mean,
Yep. Yep.
but hey,
All right, man. Well, let's close it out. And I really appreciate you being here, and it's good catching up with you again. And
yeah.
it's good seeing you. I love the beard. I like it. Look really good.
You got my number. Don't
Yes,
be a
sir.
stranger.
No, I won't. I really appreciate it, Bobby. You take care, all right?
I'll call you later. I wanted to ask you a couple questions
Yeah.
about Chicago.
Yeah, man. All right. Sounds good.
Stay safe, brother.
All right. Have a good day. Bye.